Let Christ lead your steps this morning and cover your life with heavenly safety. Before your day gains momentum, before responsibilities demand your attention, and before your thoughts begin racing ahead of your peace, you need to consider something most people overlook. Every step you take today will be shaped by the inner direction you choose right now. You may believe you are the one leading your morning, but if you pause long enough to examine the movements within your mind, you will notice something crucial. Your thoughts are already forming a path, and your emotions are already attempting to predict what is ahead, yet none of them can see the unseen terrain you are about to walk through. This is exactly why this moment matters. You cannot navigate what your eyes cannot yet perceive, but Christ can. He sees the distance you cannot measure and the risks you cannot detect. He walks into your day before you do, and if you allow yourself to become aware of this truth, your entire perception of safety begins to shift. Think logically for a moment. If Christ knows every step that waits beyond your sight, why should your inner world start the day in uncertainty or fear? If he moves ahead of you, clearing what would harm you and strengthening what would weaken you, then the real question is not whether he is present, but whether you are aligned with the direction he is already establishing. This is where clarity replaces confusion. When you understand that Christ's guidance is proactive rather than reactive, you begin to see that your day does not unfold randomly. There is a structure to it, a divine logic woven into the small and large moments you will encounter. You are not stepping into unknown territory alone. You are stepping into a path Christ has already prepared. Awareness is the key to unlocking this reality. Most people walk into their morning guided by habit rather than intention. They carry yesterday's tension into today's choices. They let the pressure of imagined outcomes cloud their judgment. They assume they must create their own safety through constant anticipation. But safety birthed from human anticipation is unstable. Safety rooted in Christ is steady because it does not depend on your ability to predict the future. It depends on his authority over it. When you embrace this truth, your thoughts begin to settle, your breathing becomes grounded, and your heart gains the confidence to move without fear. So let this moment mark a shift inside you. Let your reasoning become attentive. Let your spirit become receptive. Christ is already ahead of your first step, and his covering is not symbolic. It is active, deliberate, and present. You do not need to fight for protection. You need to walk in the awareness that you are already protected. This video will lead you deeper into that truth, guiding you toward a morning shaped not by uncertainty, but by divine leading and heavenly safety. Powerful revelation opening. Before you take your first step today, something is already walking ahead of you. This is not a metaphor to inspire comfort. It is a truth that demands your attention. Every path you will enter, every decision you will make, and every place your feet will reach has already been touched by Christ before you arrive. If you understand the weight of this reality, the entire structure of your morning changes. You no longer begin the day trying to predict outcomes or control situations. You begin by recognizing that divine preparation is already in motion. Nothing that waits ahead of you is unknown to him. Nothing forming in the distance is outside his awareness. Your day does not start with your movement, it starts with his. Consider what this means for your inner world. The mind often begins the morning with questions that rush ahead of clarity. You wonder how the day will unfold, what challenges you might encounter, and whether you will have the strength to face what appears difficult. These thoughts tighten your breathing and create a subtle pressure that follows you into your first responsibilities. Most people begin the day reacting to imagined fears rather than responding to revealed truth. But when you realize that Christ has already stepped into the places you fear, the entire logic of anxiety loses its authority. Anxiety thrives on the illusion that you are unprotected. The moment that illusion breaks, anxiety loses its foundation. The idea that Christ walks ahead of you is not meant to be inspirational poetry. It is a theological and philosophical anchor that invites you into a deeper awareness of how divine guidance works. Christ is not waiting for you to move before he acts. He initiates movement. He positions himself between you and every unseen danger. He observes what your eyes cannot perceive and intervenes in what your reasoning cannot yet understand. This is not passive protection. It is strategic, intentional, and perfectly timed. When you grasp this truth, your posture toward the day shifts from uncertainty to grounded confidence. Reflect on this logically. If someone with complete knowledge of terrain walks ahead of you, your task is no longer to anticipate every obstacle. Your task is to follow the one who sees more than you can comprehend. Christ does not simply accompany your steps. He inspects the steps before you take them. He identifies the risks that would disrupt your peace. He clears obstacles that would weaken your strength. He positions provision where you would have encountered lack. He places the right people at the right moments. He removes what would mislead you. This is divine supervision, not distant oversight. Awareness changes everything. When you forget who walks ahead of you, your mind fills the space with fears that do not belong to you. When you remember who walks ahead of you, those fears begin to collapse under the weight of truth. You are not starting the morning with vulnerability. You are starting with covering. You are not stepping into uncertainty. You are stepping into preparation. You are not walking alone. You are walking behind a presence that has already shaped the unseen parts of your day. Let this understanding settle deeply. Do not treat it as a comforting idea. Treat it as a reality that shapes the way you think, breathe, and move. Christ does not ask you to prepare yourself for every possibility. He asks you to trust the path He has already prepared. Trust does not deny the existence of challenges. Trust acknowledges that challenges lose their power when Christ walks before you. Before you take your next breath, recognize the shift occurring inside you. The morning is no longer something you face on your own. It is something you enter with divine preparation already established. Every step you take from this moment forward carries the evidence of a Savior who has already gone ahead, securing your peace and guarding your path with heavenly safety. The unseen journey. Question: if Christ is already preparing the path you cannot see, why do your thoughts still walk unprotected? This question is not meant to unsettle you. It is meant to expose the inner conflict that quietly shapes the way you begin your day. You know Christ goes before you. You know His presence is not passive. You know He guides you with intention. Yet your thoughts often behave as if you are stepping into the unknown without any covering at all. This disconnect between belief and internal reasoning becomes the doorway through which fear enters. It is not your circumstances that create insecurity. It is the unexamined distance between what your spirit knows and what your mind chooses to acknowledge. Consider what happens within you when the day begins. Your mind starts projecting possible outcomes. Some are hopeful, others are shaped by past disappointments, hidden worries, or assumptions that have never been questioned. You imagine situations that might go wrong. You anticipate conversations that may become difficult. You mentally prepare for challenges that may not even occur. In doing so, your thoughts begin walking ahead of Christ, attempting to protect you through overthinking. But overthinking cannot offer real protection. It only exhausts you. It creates scenarios without solutions and fear without truth. It is the mind trying to lead a journey it is not equipped to guide. Now reason through this with clarity. If Christ is already in the places you fear, observing the risks that have not yet appeared in your awareness, why should your thoughts move ahead of Him? Your mind cannot guard you from what it cannot see. Your reasoning cannot protect you from what it cannot predict. Trying to lead the day through anticipation rather than trust creates a kind of inner wandering that leaves you exposed to the very fears you are trying to avoid. When the mind walks alone, it walks unprotected. When it walks behind Christ, it walks covered. This is why the question holds so much weight. It reveals that the greatest vulnerability you face each morning is not external danger, but internal misalignment. When your thoughts act independently from faith, they lose stability. They shift according to fear, memory, or pressure. They shape your emotional state without considering divine truth. Yet when your thoughts align themselves with Christ's leadership, they gain structure. They gain reason. They gain grounding. They become capable of moving calmly through the unknown because they no longer confuse uncertainty with danger. Reflect on this from a Cartesian perspective. Knowledge begins with examining what you assume. If you assume you are unprotected, every thought will behave as if protection depends solely on your ability to manage risk. If you assume you walk alone, Every emotion will respond as if you must face the day by your own strength. But when you examine these assumptions, you find that they have no foundation in truth. They are projections rooted in forgetfulness. Christ's presence does not vanish because your mind becomes worried. His covering does not disappear because your emotions rise. His leading does not stop because your thoughts drift. The problem is not the absence of divine covering. The problem is the absence of awareness. Awareness changes the entire internal landscape. When you allow yourself to acknowledge that Christ stands ahead of every step, your thoughts begin to slow. They stop trying to outrun fear. They stop trying to predict the future. They stop walking unprotected. They begin to fall into alignment with the protection that already exists. This is not wishful thinking. It is disciplined reasoning. You are grounding your thoughts in truth rather than in imagination. So ask yourself again with sincerity, if Christ is preparing the path you cannot see, why should your thoughts move through the morning as if they are on their own? What do you gain by carrying fear he has already confronted? What do you gain by building scenarios he has already resolved? What do you gain by assuming danger in places where he has already established covering? When you examine these questions honestly, their answers lead you to one conclusion. Your thoughts do not need to walk unprotected when Christ is already leading the way. Let this question settle within you. Let it challenge the patterns you rarely question. Let it open the door for the next part of this journey. Christ is ahead of you, and understanding what that truly means will change the way your mind approaches the entire day. The concept of divine covering, explained in a fresh way. To understand what it means for Christ to cover your life with heavenly safety, you must rethink the entire idea of protection. Most people imagine protection as a shield that appears only when danger is near, or as a spiritual force that reacts to threats after they emerge. This belief limits the depth of what Christ actually does. His covering is not a last-minute intervention. It is a layered presence that rests over your decisions, perceptions, instincts, and the unseen risks surrounding your day. It is not activated by crisis. It is established before the crisis appears. You are not simply defended. You are pre-defended, meaning Christ positions his guidance in places your eyes have not yet reached. Think about this through clear reasoning. If Christ sees what you cannot see, he protects you in ways you may never notice. Some of the dangers you fear will never touch you, not because they are absent, but because Christ removed them from your path before they had the chance to interfere. Some of the outcomes you worry about will never unfold because his hand redirected your steps long before your mind understood the need for redirection. Some of the people who never entered your life were kept away not by coincidence but by divine filtering. This is heavenly covering. It is not reactive. It is preventative. It is not fragile. It is structured. It is a spiritual architecture placed over your life with precision. This covering expresses itself in subtle but powerful ways. It steadies your perception so you can recognize when something is not aligned with God's purpose. It sharpens your intuition so you sense when a conversation, a decision, or a relationship requires caution. It quiets your impulses so you do not rush into situations that would have drained your peace or compromised your clarity. It heightens your awareness so you detect the difference between an opportunity that is from God and a distraction that only imitates his timing. This is not superstition. This is discernment, shaped by divine covering. Heavenly covering also operates within your internal world. It influences your reasoning in moments you would normally be overwhelmed. It calms your emotions when pressure tries to dictate your responses. It gives you a sense of restraint when your thoughts attempt to move faster than wisdom. It produces clarity when confusion tries to cloud your decisions. You may not always recognize this influence, yet you feel its effects when you suddenly know what to avoid. When you sense peace pulling you back from impulsive choices, or when you experience a calm that makes no logical sense in a stressful moment. Christ's covering is not only around you, it is within you, shaping the way you interpret what you encounter. Look at this through the eyes of Descartes for a moment. He taught that understanding requires questioning your assumptions. Many people assume that protection is only physical. They assume danger is always external. They assume divine covering exists only in moments of crisis. But when you question these assumptions, you uncover a deeper truth. The greatest threats you face are often internal: confusion, impulsiveness, emotional instability, misaligned desires, misinterpreted signals. These internal risks can lead you into places that no external enemy could reach without your permission. Christ's covering addresses these risks before they create consequences. It steadies your inner world so you do not walk into traps shaped by your own misperception. Heavenly covering also extends beyond the present moment. Christ influences timing so you arrive at the right places at the right moments. He positions you to encounter opportunities that would not have appeared had you moved too quickly or too slowly. He places you in conversations that shift your direction in positive ways. He keeps you away from situations that would have delayed you. His covering is woven into your timeline, not only into your emotions. It surrounds your life not only in space but in sequence. When you realize how extensive this covering is, your entire sense of safety transforms. You no longer rely on your ability to predict every outcome. You no longer carry the burden of anticipating every potential problem. You no longer begin your morning trying to mentally defend yourself from imagined scenarios. You begin knowing Christ stands before you, shaping what you cannot see and shielding you from what you cannot measure. This is the reality you carry into your day. Christ's covering is not symbolic. It is intentional. It is active. It surrounds your life with a precision you would never be able to create on your own. Understanding this truth sets the stage for the next part of this journey. Christ is not simply present. He is leading you through movement, not stagnation. And this guidance is one of the greatest expressions of his covering. Movement-based guidance, a unique insight. There is a truth about Christ's guidance that most people never recognize because they expect God to speak only in moments of stillness. They believe direction comes only when they pause, stop, or wait for a sign. Yet Christ does not lead you by freezing your steps. He leads you by shaping them while you move. He directs motion, not stagnation. This changes everything about how you understand safety, clarity, and divine presence. Movement becomes the environment where guidance becomes visible. Stagnation clouds perception. Motion reveals it. Think through this carefully. When you refuse to move out of fear, you trap yourself in a cycle of uncertainty. Your mind rehearses possibilities without resolution. Your emotions tighten around what might happen instead of what God is preparing to reveal. You lose perspective because clarity requires motion. Just as a traveler cannot see the bend of a road until they walk toward it, you cannot discern God's direction until you begin moving in alignment with His peace. Christ does not show you the full path from a distance. He reveals the path as you walk. Each step exposes what hesitation hides. Movement is not rushing. It is intentional forward progression rooted in trust. You take a step because your spirit recognizes the peace that accompanies it. You move because your reasoning understands that waiting for perfect certainty will trap you in indecision. You progress because you know Christ is leading the way. When you move with Him, your path becomes shaped by His presence rather than by your predictions. You begin to see options you did not notice before. You recognize opportunities that were invisible when fear held you still. You feel a grounded confidence that rises not from your own abilities, but from the certainty that Christ is ahead of you. Christ directs motion in subtle yet undeniable ways. Sometimes He slows your pace internally, creating a sense that you should move with caution. Other times He accelerates your pace, giving you confidence to move without hesitation. He may close a door so you redirect naturally, or He may open one so clearly that you cannot ignore it. Each of these movements is a form of guidance. They are not random emotional shifts. They are signs that Christ is shaping your steps in real time. Guidance becomes easier to discern when you realize it often appears as a change in rhythm rather than an audible command. Reflect on this with disciplined reasoning. Motion creates data. When you move, you learn. When you learn, you gain clarity. When you gain clarity, you become more aligned with what God is doing. Fear keeps you in analysis. Faith moves you into discovery. Christ knows that your mind becomes clearer when your steps are aligned with His presence. This is why He leads through movement. He knows you will understand the path better when you are walking it rather than imagining it. Movement forces assumptions to reveal themselves. It exposes your inner doubts. It strengthens your trust. It shows you where you are resisting his direction and where you are cooperating with it. Consider how Christ worked with his disciples. He rarely told them every detail in advance. He said, "Follow me," and direction became clear as they walked. They learned while moving. They grew while moving. They discovered purpose while moving. Stillness served as preparation, but movement revealed calling. The same principle applies to you. Christ's guidance does not disconnect from your daily life. It moves through the steps you take, the conversations you enter, and the decisions you confront. He shapes your path not through dramatic signs, but through the natural unfolding that occurs when your steps follow his timing. Heavenly safety expresses itself within motion. When Christ walks ahead of you, he removes dangers before your feet reach them. When he walks beside you, he strengthens your resolve. When he walks within you, he refines your perception. The more you move with him, the more visibly you recognize the patterns of his protection. Every step becomes a witness to his covering. Every shift in direction becomes proof of his wisdom. Every moment of hesitation that transforms into clarity becomes evidence of his presence. You must understand this truth deeply. Christ does not ask you to wait until you feel invincible to take a step. He asks you to trust the one who walks ahead of you. Strength grows as you move. Discernment sharpens as you move. Peace deepens as you move. You become more aware of his presence with each step you take. Movement is not the opposite of faith. It is the expression of it. When you walk forward with Christ leading the way, you are living in alignment with the safety he has already established around your life. This understanding sets the stage for what comes next. Movement prepares the heart for trust, and trust prepares the heart for transformation. Now that you see how Christ guides you through motion, you are ready to enter the sacred transition that opens the path toward deeper communion with him. Sacred transition into trust. You cannot receive heavenly covering with hurried thoughts. This truth is simple, yet it exposes one of the greatest obstacles to recognizing Christ's guidance. The mind often races faster than the spirit can follow. You step into the day with an internal pace shaped by yesterday's anxieties, last week's pressures, or long-standing fears that never received proper attention. When your thoughts move too quickly, they outrun the peace Christ is offering. When your emotions accelerate without direction, they drown out the quiet certainty he is trying to establish. Trust cannot enter a mind that refuses to slow down long enough to hear it. This is why a sacred transition is necessary. Trust is not born from emotion. Trust emerges when awareness becomes steady. Consider what happens when you intentionally shift your internal posture. Your breathing deepens. Your reasoning sharpens. Your emotions begin to separate themselves from the assumptions that were shaping them. You start to notice the difference between legitimate concerns and imagined fears. You begin to distinguish between impulse and wisdom. This shift is not mystical. It is deliberate. It is the moment where your inner world stops reacting and starts listening. Christ can lead anyone who is willing to listen. The difficulty is not his silence. The difficulty is the pace at which your thoughts run ahead of his voice. Reflect on this through disciplined thought. If Christ has already prepared your path, then the only question is whether you will walk it with a mind that cooperates with his guidance. Trust is the alignment between your inner rhythm and his leadership. Without trust, guidance becomes difficult to discern, not because he hides it, but because you cannot hear direction while clinging to fear. Trust requires you to slow your reasoning, not to weaken it, but to strengthen it through clarity. Trust is not the abandonment of logic. It is logic purified by truth. Now allow yourself to sense the shift taking place. You have examined the unseen journey. You have understood divine covering in ways most people never consider. You have discovered that Christ guides through movement, not stagnation. These insights are not meant to remain as knowledge alone. They are meant to shape your posture, your breathing, your awareness, and the way you approach this moment. When trust begins to rise within you, your thoughts stop fighting for control. They begin cooperating with faith. This cooperation creates space for Christ to speak into your life with greater clarity. Trust is not passive acceptance. It is active alignment. It is the choice to stand in the truth you have already recognized, rather than in the fear you have previously entertained. Trust shifts your focus from what might go wrong to what Christ is already making right. Trust turns your attention away from imagined danger and directs it toward divine covering. Trust allows your heart to rest without becoming complacent. It prepares you to move without becoming reckless. It opens the way for Christ to lead you fully. Feel what is happening within you as this transition unfolds. The tension you carried begins to loosen because tension cannot remain where trust is rising. The pressure that once defined your thoughts starts to dissolve because pressure loses its authority in the presence of peace. The uncertainty that clouded your reasoning begins to clear because uncertainty cannot compete with the truth that Christ has already walked ahead of you. This is the beginning of real inner transformation. Nothing superficial, nothing forced. Just a heart becoming fully aware of the one who has never stopped leading. Trust is the doorway you must step through before entering prayer. Prayer requires openness. Prayer requires honesty. Prayer requires surrender that does not feel like defeat, but like relief. You cannot pray deeply while your thoughts remain crowded by fear. You cannot pray sincerely while your mind races beyond your spirit. You cannot pray with confidence while you treat Christ as distant. Trust is what brings you to the place where prayer becomes real. It turns prayer from words into alignment, from habit into communion, from obligation into connection. Allow trust to settle into your reasoning. Let it reshape the way you stand before God. Let it slow the inner rush that has drained you for too long. Let it prepare you for the guidance and safety Christ is ready to speak over your life. You are now stepping into a moment where prayer becomes the bridge between what you understand and what God desires to establish in you. The sacred transition is complete. Your heart is steady. Your mind is open. Your spirit is ready. Main prayer of guidance and safety. Christ, as we enter this moment with a steady mind and an open heart, we recognize that your presence has been leading our steps long before we became aware of it. We come to you not with rushed words or scattered thoughts, but with the clarity that rises when trust begins to form inside us. You see what lies ahead in this day, and you understand every detail that our eyes cannot yet perceive. We acknowledge that nothing in our path is hidden from you. Nothing unknown to us is unknown to you. We stand here ready to be guided, strengthened, and covered by the safety that only your presence can provide. Christ, you walk ahead of us before we even rise from where we are. You take the first step into every place we will enter. You stand in the conversations we have not yet had. You prepare the outcomes we cannot predict. You face the challenges that would have discouraged us if we encountered them alone. Your leadership is not distant, it is immediate. It reaches into the unseen, ensuring that our feet will not touch ground you have not already examined. So we ask that you guide the path in front of us with precision. Align our direction with the places you have called us to walk. Remove anything that would hinder our progress and strengthen anything that must remain. Christ, you surround us in ways we often overlook. Your covering is not limited to danger. It extends into our decisions, our perceptions, and the quiet impulses that shape our day. Surround our thoughts with clarity so they do not drift into fear. Surround our emotions with steadiness so they do not respond to imagined threats. Surround our reasoning with truth so it does not become confused by assumptions. Surround our steps with safety so that no unseen danger can interfere with the purpose you have established for us. Let your presence become the protective atmosphere we carry into every environment. Where your presence stands, nothing harmful can take authority. Christ, you dwell within us as the voice that refines our perception. You speak with a clarity that rises above noise. You guide with conviction that cuts through uncertainty. You remind us that real direction does not come from anxiety or impulse, but from the peace that flows from you. We ask that you sharpen our awareness so we can discern the signals you place in our spirit. Let us feel the gentle pull when you nudge us forward. Let us sense the quiet restraint when you warn us to pause. Let us recognize the subtle clarity that appears when we step into the spaces you have prepared. Let your voice be the anchor that gives shape to our inner world. Christ, we surrender every fear that tries to predict our future. We surrender every thought that attempts to outrun your wisdom. We surrender every scenario built from insecurity rather than truth. We surrender the pressure to control outcomes that belong to your hands, not ours. Strengthen us in the places where we feel unsteady. Fill us with courage to walk the path you have prepared. Replace hesitation with confidence. Replace confusion with discernment. Replace anxiety with peace that stands firm even when the day becomes difficult. Christ, guide our relationships so they align with your purpose. Guide our conversations so they reflect your grace. Guide our responsibilities so they unfold without chaos. Guide our decisions so they carry the weight of your wisdom rather than the impulse of fear. Guide our steps with the assurance that every place we walk today is already touched by your presence. Let your protection be active, not symbolic. Let your leading be clear, not vague. Let your peace be strong, not fragile. Christ, we step into this day covered by you. Covered in direction, covered in clarity, covered in strength, covered in safety that reaches beyond what we can see. We trust you to protect us from what we cannot predict. We trust you to lead us through what we cannot avoid. We trust you to hold us in moments that test our resolve. We trust you to shape every step so that nothing in this day unfolds outside the guidance of your hand. We enter this day knowing you walk ahead of us, you stand around us, and you speak within us. This is our protection. This is our confidence. This is our peace. Divine awareness activation. There is a moment in every spiritual journey when truth stops being something you only understand and becomes something you consciously choose to stand upon. You have reflected deeply. You have allowed Christ to walk ahead of you, to surround you, and to speak within you. You have surrendered fears that once dictated your inner rhythm. Now a new step is required, one that shifts your awareness from passive agreement to deliberate alignment. This is the moment when your mind, your heart, and your spirit unify around the truth that Christ is leading your steps today. Without this alignment, fear will attempt to reclaim ground that no longer belongs to it. With this alignment, you walk into the day with a clarity that cannot be shaken. Awareness is more than mental understanding. It is the state in which your reasoning cooperates fully with the presence of Christ. Descartes taught that knowledge must be intentional, not accidental. Awareness behaves in the same way. You cannot drift into awareness. You step into it consciously. It is the act of telling your thoughts what truth they must hold. It is the act of shaping your perception according to divine reality rather than emotional impulse. It is the act of choosing which voice will guide you. When awareness becomes active, fear loses its influence because fear cannot survive in a mind that has chosen truth with conviction. This moment is where you make that choice. Christ has already positioned himself ahead of you, clearing what would have harmed you. His presence has already formed a covering around your life. His voice has already spoken into your inner world with guidance that silences confusion. Now you must allow your awareness to rise to the level of this truth. If your thoughts drift, you return them. If your emotions waver, you steady them. If doubt attempts to enter, you confront it with the truth that Christ is already where you are going. Awareness is not denial. Awareness is clarity. To activate this awareness, you must speak a declaration that centers your mind and anchors your spirit. Words carry direction. They shape the structure of your thinking. They remind your emotions of the truth they are expected to follow. Declaring truth out loud is not performance. It is discipline. It is the moment when you tell yourself what Christ has already told you. It is the moment when agreement becomes alignment. You speak not to convince yourself, but to stabilize what is already rising within you. Take a breath that carries intention and prepare to declare what your spirit already knows. Let your mind become fully present. Let your awareness sharpen. Let your heart receive the weight of the truth you are about to speak. Now declare with clarity that carries both humility and confidence. Say, Christ, let my steps follow your leading, not my fears. Let the meaning of this declaration settle inside you. You are choosing leading over reacting. You are choosing guidance over panic. You are choosing peace over overthinking. You are choosing truth over imagination. You are choosing the voice of Christ over the noise of uncertainty. This choice shapes the rest of your day. Your stepping is no longer random. Your direction is no longer fragile. Your awareness is no longer passive. Your movement is no longer rooted in fear. You are walking under the covering of Christ, not under the shadow of anxiety. Hold this awareness with intention. Let it form a protective frame around your thoughts. Let it influence your decisions. Let it regulate your emotions. Let it determine how you interpret the moments ahead. You cannot walk unprotected when your awareness remains aligned with the guidance of Christ. This activation is not temporary. It is the beginning of a new posture that shapes your entire day. With this awareness awakened, you are ready to receive the counsel that teaches you how to navigate your steps with spiritual sensitivity and divine clarity. Counsel of spiritual navigation. Now that your awareness is fully aligned with Christ's leading, you must understand how divine guidance unfolds through the subtleties of your inner world. Many people expect God to guide them through dramatic signs, unmistakable signals, or forceful redirection. Yet Christ most often guides through shifts so gentle that only a quiet spirit can detect them. Guidance is not always an announcement. Guidance is frequently a change in atmosphere within you. It appears as a sense that grows without noise, a clarity that forms without pressure. This is why spiritual navigation requires sensitivity. Christ leads, but you must learn to perceive the signals that reveal his direction. Begin with the way Christ affects your internal rhythm. When he is leading you toward something, your spirit gains a quiet, forward pull. There is no rush in it. There is no fear attached to it. It feels like a natural progression, as if your steps are being carried rather than forced. When he is redirecting you away from something, you experience an internal slowdown. Your emotions settle instead of accelerating. Your thoughts become cautious instead of insistent. Your reasoning becomes clearer rather than scattered. This is not hesitation created by anxiety. It is refinement created by discernment. The difference becomes obvious when you learn to listen to the movement within you. Spiritual navigation also appears in the way peace behaves inside you. Peace is not merely an emotion, it is a directional indicator. When Christ is pointing you toward the right path, peace expands your capacity to think clearly. You feel able to move forward even if you do not know every detail ahead. You sense stability beneath your decisions. You feel grounded even in uncertainty. But when Christ is warning you, peace contracts. Something inside you becomes unsettled. Your thoughts refuse to move comfortably in that direction. Your spirit feels resistance instead of flow. This is the covering of Christ acting as protection, not allowing you to step where his guidance does not lead. Discernment also increases through clarity. When Christ is guiding a decision, clarity becomes sharper, not louder. You begin to see patterns you missed before. You understand consequences with greater accuracy. You perceive the motives of people with greater discernment. You recognize when an opportunity is aligned with God's purpose rather than with your own impatience. Clarity that comes from Christ simplifies what once felt complicated. It removes unnecessary options. It isolates the decision that carries peace. It separates impulse from direction. When clarity increases, guidance becomes visible. Another form of divine navigation appears through the removal of pressure. Pressure is produced by fear and self-reliance. It pushes you into decisions prematurely. It rushes your reasoning and blinds your perception. But when Christ leads you, pressure dissolves. Decisions feel weighty but not overwhelming. The future feels unknown but not threatening. Movement feels intentional but not forced. Christ removes pressure because pressure interferes with discerning his direction. He guides through steadiness, not strain. You must also pay attention to moments of intuitive advancement. Intuition guided by Christ is not a guess. It is recognition rising from the Spirit. You may not understand why you feel drawn to act or speak or move in a certain way, but the pull is consistent and peaceful. Christ places these intuitive movements within you to guide you toward divine timing. They appear without fear. They appear without pressure. They appear without confusion. They are the internal confirmation that your steps are aligned with the path He has prepared. Spiritual navigation requires a heart that observes rather than reacts. It requires a mind that questions assumptions rather than following impulses. It requires awareness that chooses truth over fear, discernment over emotion, and direction over distraction. When you understand how Christ guides through subtlety, you stop demanding signs and begin trusting signals. You stop chasing certainty and begin embracing clarity. You stop waiting for a dramatic revelation and begin moving in the quiet confidence that Christ is already shaping your steps. Let this counsel settle inside you. Christ is not silent. His guidance is active. His presence is directional. His covering is intelligent. You are not left to interpret your day without help. You are not expected to navigate life through instinct alone. Christ is leading you through every shift of peace, every rise of clarity, every removal of pressure, and every subtle pull toward advancement. With this understanding rooted in you, you are ready to receive the blessing that seals His protection over your life and prepares you to walk the rest of the day with confidence. Heavenly Safety Blessing. Where Christ walks first, danger loses access. This is the foundation of the blessing you are about to receive. You stand in a moment where your heart has become steady, your awareness has opened, your trust has deepened, and your spirit has aligned with the guidance of Christ. Now the blessing spoken over your life does not land on confusion. It lands on clarity. It does not fall on fear. It falls on faith that is rising. It does not reach a scattered mind. It reaches a spirit prepared to receive the full weight of divine safety. This blessing is not poetic language. It is a declaration grounded in truth, shaping the atmosphere around you and the direction before you. May Christ surround your steps with protection that operates before danger attempts to form. Let His presence fortify the unseen areas of your path so that nothing harmful can approach unnoticed. Let the places you walk be covered by His authority. Let the conversations you enter be shielded from manipulation and misunderstanding. Let the decisions you make be guarded from deception and confusion. May Christ's covering stretch beyond your awareness, reaching into the distances your eyes cannot measure and the moments your reasoning cannot anticipate. Where His presence rests, no threat can take root. May Christ strengthen your inner world so that fear cannot influence your movement. Let His peace anchor your thoughts with such stability that no internal storm can shake your foundation. Let His wisdom settle into your reasoning so clearly that doubt loses its ability to distort your perception. Let His assurance calm the emotional noise that once dictated your reactions. May your heart carry a confidence that does not depend on circumstance, but on the reality that Christ is ahead of you, behind you, around you, and within you. This inner strength becomes the gate through which nothing unaligned with Him can enter. May Christ guide your timing with precision. Let His hand protect you from arriving too early into situations unprepared, and from arriving too late into opportunities He created for your growth. Let His influence shape the rhythm of your day, so that every moment unfolds within His design. May He align your steps with divine timing that brings you into the right environments, the right conversations, and the right decisions. Timing is a form of safety, and when Christ holds your timing, He protects you from consequences that would have emerged through misalignment. May Christ guard your relationships. Let the people who draw near be those who strengthen your purpose rather than weaken it. Let every harmful intention be exposed before it can reach your heart. Let manipulation be revealed, dishonesty be uncovered, and unhealthy influence be removed. Let every person who belongs in your journey be guided toward you with clarity, and every person who does not be redirected away with peace. Christ is the protector of your connections, and His covering extends into the spaces where words, intentions, and motives intersect. May Christ secure your path from every unseen risk. Let His presence intercept what was meant to harm you. Let His guidance divert you from places where danger would have found you. Let His protection cover the invisible intersections of your life where choices shape destiny. May every snare set against you be dismantled before your feet reach it. May every plan formed in darkness be undone by His light. May every threat from the spiritual realm be broken by His authority. Christ's covering reaches deeper than your understanding, and his protection operates with a precision beyond human insight. May Christ grant you the confidence to walk into this day without fear. Let the certainty of his presence dissolve every lingering anxiety. Let the assurance of his guidance silence every voice of doubt. Let the reality of his safety stabilize your steps. May you walk with a calm that confuses fear, a strength that surprises anxiety, and a clarity that quiets confusion. You are not stepping into this day alone. You are stepping into a day already shaped by Christ's preparation. As this blessing rests over your life, hold it with reverence. It is not a temporary comfort. It is a declaration that shapes the hours ahead. Christ is covering you. Christ is guiding you. Christ is protecting you. Christ is walking before you. No danger can take authority where his presence stands. This blessing seals the truth you have embraced and prepares you for the final words that will carry you out of this moment with purpose. High retention outro. As you prepare to step out of this moment and into the flow of your day, allow yourself to recognize the transformation that has taken place within you. You did not simply listen to a message. You shifted the posture of your inner world. The pace of your thoughts changed. The weight of your emotions lightened. The clarity of your reasoning sharpened. You became aware of Christ's presence in a way that rewrote the beginning of your morning. You are not leaving this moment empty. You are carrying with you a direction that has already been shaped by the one who walks ahead of you. Take a moment to observe what is now different. The uncertainty that once clouded your thinking no longer holds the same authority. The fears that tried to pull your attention toward imagined outcomes have lost their influence. The inner pressure that attempted to dictate your decisions has been silenced by the covering of Christ. What remains is a grounded calm, a steady peace, a clear awareness that your day is no longer defined by what you fear, but by who leads you. You are walking into a reality where Christ has already prepared the unseen places, secured your steps, and covered your path with heavenly safety. This awareness becomes your compass as you move forward. When the day challenges your peace, return your mind to the truth you embraced here. When distractions try to scatter your focus, remind your spirit that Christ is ahead of you. When uncertainty attempts to rise again, recall that divine covering is not fragile. It does not fade because you change environments. It does not weaken because circumstances shift. The presence that held you in this moment is fully capable of holding you in every hour that follows. Think carefully about the value of beginning your morning with clarity instead of confusion. When you start with Christ's guidance, your decisions become rooted in wisdom rather than impulse. When you start with his covering, your steps become confident rather than hesitant. When you start with his presence, your emotions become steady rather than reactive. The way you begin your day shapes the way your day unfolds. You have chosen a beginning that aligns your spirit with truth, your thoughts with peace, and your path with divine protection. Do not underestimate the power of returning to moments like this. Growth is not built on isolated experiences. Growth is built on consistency. Each time you return, your awareness sharpens. Each time you listen, your trust deepens. Each time you pause, your spirit becomes more sensitive to the direction of Christ. This is not routine. This is formation. This is the shaping of a life that does not walk alone, does not move blindly, and does not face the unknown without guidance. If this message brought light into your morning, let this be a place you revisit. Not out of obligation, but out of recognition that Christ speaks clearly when you give him space to speak. There is a difference between moving through the day with scattered thoughts and walking into the day with intentional awareness. You felt that difference here. You experienced the strength that rises when you slow down enough to let Christ lead. You witnessed how your inner world changes when you acknowledge his covering. Your day begins now, not with fear, not with uncertainty, not with rushed thinking, but with the confidence that Christ is guiding every step ahead of you. Walk with the calm that only divine presence can create. Walk with the clarity that comes from alignment. Walk with the assurance that heavenly safety surrounds your life. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to predict everything. You need only to follow the one who has already prepared the path. If this message brought light to your morning, return tomorrow and walk again under Christ's direction. There will be a place for you here, ready to reset your mind, steady your heart, and awaken your awareness to the presence that remains with you in every moment of your day.